Zen Master Zongmi is a really interesting person. He lived from 780 to 840, so he's living almost right at the end of the classical development period of Chinese Zen. So he's born about 10 years before Master Baso dies. He produces a commentary on the 7 Zen schools that were in existence at his time. But his interest really is in his own school, the school of Master Baso, which is the Honshu school, the Oxhead school, and the Northern school. And he describes the differences between these schools using the simile of a bright jewel, so simile which he borrows from the Sutra of Perfect Enlightenment. So in this simile, there's a bright jewel called a wishing jewel, and next to this bright jewel is placed a black object symbolizing ignorance. And the effect of that black object is to make the jewel appear black. And so he describes the Northern school as saying that the intrinsic nature of the jewel is bright, but that somehow it's covered over by this blackness, so we need to kind of wipe the blackness off before the brightness can be revealed. That's obviously a very unfair characterization of the Northern school's teaching, which is nothing like that, but it fits in to the earlier sectarianism of Zongmi's the founder of his school, the Hezi school, which was Shen Hui. The Oxhead school, the school which almost certainly wrote the Platform Sutra and which adhered most closely to Nagarjuna's teachings on emptiness, is characterized as saying, so far as the jewel's concerned, that the blackness doesn't exist, because nothing really exists. So everything is empty, so there isn't blackness, but there isn't a jewel either, and there isn't really brightness. He characterizes the Honshu school of Baso as people that say the blackness is the jewel, and apart from the blackness, there is no jewel. That's probably a bit unfair to the Honshu school, but Zongmi was not attacking Baso himself, for whom he had great respect. He was probably aiming at some of Baso's successors, who I imagine he felt neglected the centrality of practice, that what you required to realise was the jewel of everyday life, the Buddha nature of everything, and that was sufficient. And he characterises his own school, the Heze, or the Southern school, as saying that the brightness of the jewel is real, but the blackness isn't real. The blackness is simply an aspect of the brightness, and all particular phenomena, all particular colours that would be placed in front of the jewel are simply a function of the jewel's brightness. So that's the metaphor. The jewel obviously representing Buddha nature or original mind, and the blackness representing what covers that over, ignorance, and so on. Zongmi is also very interesting in having an unusual, for us, model of practice. So his model is sudden awakening followed by gradual practice. So the sudden awakening is a kind of visceral recognition of the truths of impermanence, interdependence, no self, non-duality, and so on. So some kind of intrinsic grasping of that, not simply as a kind of belief, but as something felt, followed by gradual practice to attend to the karmic afflictions which have caused these illusions of separation and self to be generated. So for all these reasons, Zongmi is a really interesting person. The author Geoffrey Broughton has written about him, and it's really a good idea to read this, partly because it acts as our cure again, seeing Zen through a subsequent parody almost of what Baso and his school was saying, because it's Baso's lineage that successfully continued past the fall of the Tang dynasty and the eventual establishment of the Song dynasty in 960 and the subsequent flourishing of Zen in China.